The Walter P. Lomax Jr. MD Speaker Series presented WURD Speaks, 150 Years of Freedom Fighting, partnering with the Library Company of Philadelphia and held at the historic Mother Bethel Church. Those present heard the melodic sounds of Tyrone Burkett's Emancipation and a panel discussion about the 150 years of freedom fighting.
That is what tonight is about. It's about our struggle, our lives, our evolution over from the Civil War all the way up to the present. And we know that that struggle is persistent and consistent.
Today we've got integrated schools, but segregated school budgets and school funding.
The Library Company is really proud to be working with WURD, the Lomax Foundation, and of course, Mother Bethel Church.
Today we have gathered to take a retrospective view of that 150-year struggle through the hearts and the minds, through the eyes and the lofty perspectives of decorated authors, academicians, and human beings.
There being more black men in the system, connected to the criminal justice system, that were enslaved in 1850. And in order to understand our present, we have to look backwards. We have to understand what worked, what didn't, and make these sort of direct connections between this moment, a long moment, when brown people were enslaved, and what's happening now.
What we have, the kind of radical idea that allowed this church to come into existence, the radical idea that allowed black people to sustain ourselves throughout the course of the travail and turmoil and difficulty and trials that we faced, was a kind of intellectualism that countered the great thinking of the founders of this country. Thomas Jefferson, who is the intellectual light of the founding fathers, says that these individuals are not human. But the unlettered person, the person who's been denied education, the person who has been beaten like in ways that an animal should not even be treated, the person who has never been given a decent opportunity in life, says a radical statement, which is, I am a human being, and I know that.
You know, how can it be that black people could be shot to death, and others say that's fine? Or even today, that you can have a teenager on tape, right? A 12-year-old on tape shot to death, and it's justified. How can you have 2 million people locked up in prison, most of them people of color, and it's justified? People don't see the violence. Why? It's because of that very powerful idea that black people are not fully human.
What's crazy is how in the world can you be the group of people who worked and built the entire infrastructure of this nation, established and cultivated each economic paradigmatic shift in this nation, and did much of it for free, yet we're the lazy people.
It's just a reality that in the 21st century, there are some things that I will not encounter that 18th century enslaved women did. So looking at that past, looking at the tragedy, we also have to see the triumph in that and attempt to be optimistic. If you look at where people came from and where we are now, we have to be optimistic, right? It's the only thing that keeps us moving, that it has to be better.